Boom. And then I'm going to share my screen. All right, see how this goes. Okay, we have a couple things going on here. I'm going to block out all the deal specific or people specific stuff here. So I'm just going through it so that it grounds us. So it looked like what Adam was looking for is 3 tabs: year 1, year 2, the assumptions. The first tab to put your monthly first year projections, second tab to put your year 2 projections, and 3 for the assumptions. I'm going to focus more on the financial piece of this, Adam. The business plan A, I think you'll be able to better do, but also would take more than this hour anyway. More than willing to look through it, validate it, fill it in, but I think that's probably more your land anyway, right?
Yeah, no, that's definitely been working on that side of things, and comfortable with that. But I think on the performing, definitely comfortable filling that out. But just excited to get your expertise on that side of things to kind of accelerate and I don't know, it's really kind of make it more meaningful, right? So it's not me guessing; it's more based on reality and kind of the risk profile and really what's possible. So.
Absolutely. I think that's perfect. And then just so you know, I'm an engineer, what I call a reformed engineer because it makes people laugh, but it's still in me. And then a finance guy that got so upset when I got to business school because, and you know this, like as an engineer, I'm like a mathematician. And so I started my career in consulting, and income statement math is pretty easy, but when you get to like cash flow, it's a little bit more complicated. And my first consulting job was like, oh man, those cash flow equations, those are just too tough, man. Let me just put the numbers in the spreadsheet. We'll do the work for you. And I was like, hold on, man, you're telling a mathematician you can't tell them a formula that's only addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division? Like, you're lying to me. So then I got to business school and I was still a bit scared of this stuff. And then, nothing like on the job training. So I took my first internship and there was no hiding. It was like a 5-person company. And my boss and the partner just like kicked my behind all over the place. And then finally you get to that moment where you're like, I'm just not going to get hit anymore. And so you have to sort of learn it from the ground up. And once I got a handle of it, this stuff is not that complex. So I'm going to speak from that angle.
Perfect.
So projections, again, we are projecting the future. So first rule of projections is nobody's all that good at it.
Good.
Express writers, so let's put that in here. Also, what I think I'm going to do is, and while I'm here, so this business, remind me the nature of the business, so just so I'm clear on it.
It's a content agency. So essentially, what they do is they, pair their writers with businesses that are looking for online content. So blog articles, digital ad copy, video tutorials, those types of things. So if you've got a website and you need content for your blog or content pages, Express Writers will pair you with their writers that provide that service for them.
Okay, awesome. Okay, I'm just going to give ourselves some kind of formatting so it's a little bit easier to see what's going on here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow that you sent me into this sheet. And I probably also do, I believe Quiet Light sent a adjusted income statement. So I'll probably pull that in here too, just so we have it. And then we'll start from there. Perfect. Okay. So there's that, and let me make sure I have. I think this is the P&L. Let me make sure they have the adjustments in this. So TTM, add backs, boom. Okay. So okay. So what I'm gonna start with is just I'm gonna take all these tabs, Adam, and pull them into the projection model. We'll hide them or remove them before we send them to your bank, but
Okay.
it's just
At
easiest.
least
Yeah.
workspace.
Yeah, because here's the thing: when you don't, when you do these things and you don't link the cells, it's impossible to audit or change. So the number one trick is that you want every data point that you're going to use in a particular workbook to be in that workbook, and you want to link to it. That way, hey, interest isn't 5%, it's 6%, and you only change it once in the model and it propagates, not 28 times, right?
Right.
Or, hey, Elliot, how'd you come up with gross margin as percentage of sales? And if I have to click the 10 tabs, I've lost the lender or the investor. But if I can say, oh, it's right here. Okay, well, I wouldn't pull it from there, Elliot, but I get it. And then it's easier to move on. So I'm going to insert a tab here just so I know what's here. And I'm going through this a little bit academically too, to kind of show you how to do it. So I'm spending a little bit more time on setting it up. All right. And then since we're only doing really the income statement, that's cash flow. Here's the P&L. I'm going to move this into our sheet as well. Okay. All right. So now what's the best way to do this so we can look at all of these things? Okay. So I think the first place to start is going to be the assumptions, at least walking through what they are and what they're going to drive off of. And they're saying, hey, please describe the basis for your projected income and expenses. Note, if business is seasonal, please label months on projections tab. So we're going to say this is going to be the number or whatever, and then this will be the basis. All right. So typically for like sales, so there's two levels to do this, Adam. So, and you know this better than I would. Sales is really number of salespeople, conversions, right? And sort of sustainability of those folks. But like a lender is not going to want to hear all of that. They're going to want like previous year or previous 2 or 3 years and something that's at most that high on growth and probably a bit more conservative. So that's typically the best way to do it for lenders. Cost of sales is going to be a percentage of sales historically, as will gross profit because they're just the net, right?
Right. Yep.
Officer salaries, similar to last year.
Yeah, I mean, with that, I mean, even our view there is, I think we want to run the numbers, but at least for the first year, I mean, from an investor perspective, is it good to stay similar or even lower than previous years? Because I mean, if you look through kind of the funny things they're doing is, they're pulling money out to fund a farm and other things like that. And so we're not going to do that. Obviously, it's we're going to tighten the ship a little bit to really kind of because my goal is they don't spend any on marketing. And they have one lady doing sales for them right now. So it's just very rudimentary sales and marketing operations they have right now. It's going to be. So, anyways, I mean, we're gonna take salary. We're gonna take money out of the business, but I think it's kind of been a lifestyle business for them, and I kind of want to turn it into a smoother running operation. Again, I don't know if that's needed here, but that's definitely going to be part of our thesis. So.
Yeah, so I said similar to last year or lower, and then we're going to net out non-business related expenses.
Perfect. Yeah.
But I wanted to do this because really most of these are going to be similar to last year.
Right.
Or lower.
Yep. Because I mean, if you look at the business, it's it's functioning, right? So it's profitable. It's they've got sales and they're making a profit. So I think similar is good. And then our goal is to come in and obviously accelerate growth through sales and marketing and smooth that optimize operations. So, I think from an assumptions perspective, that's great, right?
Yeah, I think so. And then one of the things that I didn't want to assume is that I didn't want to assume that you believed all of the ad backs.
Right.
So this is trailing 12 month as of March 2021. And first off, let me freeze. Alt W F freeze paint. Okay, so this is TTM. So they're saying March 2021 TTM net income is 121. Let's see what came out of QuickBooks. Well, even if it's fundamentally different, at least we need to sort of understand the magnitude of the difference. Because this is what you're going to show up in due diligence. So, we're not going to go past March. Start April 2020. Okay. So a little bit of a difference there. But again, one of the challenges of smaller deals, Adam, is that on $1 million deal, $100,000 is not big of a swing. On a deal where not operating income is 121 and then you get $100,000 swing, it is material. But this is what you're going to shore up in due diligence. So for instance, I cannot imagine a company like this really runs at a loss of $50,000.
Right. So what happened in December?
Yeah, which of course is when people start making elective choices, right, to manage their tax burden. So what we're going to say is full ad backs or ad backs from broker, assuming they're all relevant, and then so adjusted. Oh, we'll add backs and then this will be SDE. So on a trailing 12-month basis equals the add backs were Wow. Okay. And then sellers' earnings were, well, it's equals, no, it's this minus this by definition. Okay. So 464, and then let's get what theirs is, 444. So now we're not off by a significant amount. Yep. Okay. So now that we have that, here's where I'm going to shortcut this a little bit more because I don't think. So let me just come back to the screen. In an ideal world, the bank's going to want each and every line item categorized the way that they want it.
Mm-hmm.
For this, what I'm going to do is take the P&L from Quiet Light, probably because it's so similar to yours.
Right.
And then I'm going to build a projection model for the next 2 years, which is what the bank wanted. And then I'm going to fill in the assumptions tab. I won't go so far on this call. I don't think I'll have it in 37 minutes to line it up line by line the same way the lender wants. But hopefully that's not too big of a stretch. What I wanted to do more was just what is a 2-year projection for a business like this, and what are the assumptions based on?
No, and that's great because I can run them from there because I think there then it's because I want to be able to let's get the framework in place. What are the assumptions? What are the big boulders that we want there, and then I can refine that. And then as we're talking with the lenders, just refining that model, we can work from that. But yeah, if we can kind of get the big numbers in there, and that'd be great.
Sure. So then the one thing I also want to look at, because I want to get the historical growth here to kind of understand what growth could be reasonably projected.
Yeah.
So I'm going to repeat something just for the video purposes. In a true, fully drawn out model, the sales growth would be a function of salespeople, conversion ratios, kind of industry penetration, and all those kind of things. When you're doing financial modeling, the first pass is really just looking at the historicals and understanding that you're probably going to be, plus or minus 20% relative to the historical growth rate. You're not going to be a lot higher. You're probably not anticipating being a whole lot lower. And that ends up being the basis for growth.
Yeah, because when I was kind of modeling out the terms or just kind of a deal from a top line perspective, I put in 10% EBITDA growth. It's kind of my sort of conservative sort of perspective. Obviously,
sure.
have more aggressive on the back end there, but that was what I'd use. And then on the expense side, I was thinking 15% sort of capex reinvested with the working capital. But
when you say capex, working capital, what do you mean there?
Just the kind of the what I wanted to reinvest in the business, just from a investment perspective. So
understood. I was hoping they were going to do like a annual year over year P&L in a simple view. I think what they showed in bar chart view is the closest we're going to get. So revenue 2018, 19, 19, 20, 2021. If we look at what month feels most representative. So Dark blue is this year. Okay, so help me out here, Adam. Has this business both like expanded and contracted over the 3-year period?
Yeah. So it's like 19 was huge, 20 was they got their COVID hit, and then 21 they're starting to see sort of a return. So
okay.
So yeah, kind of the you see that's kind of what you see there, right? So
yep. So here's what I would say, and this is for conservatism with the lenders and for not getting escorted out of the room with laughter. Probably the safest assumption here is flat growth on revenue.
Okay.
Someone
based
may
on
argue
20 or over the 3-year.
Well,
3-year average.
Well, keep in mind we're projecting 2 years forward. If you thought the reduction was going to be the same, if you thought the reduction from 2018 to 2021 was going to be commensurate going forward, right? You wouldn't buy the business, right? We all know this thing called COVID hit in 2020 and threw everybody into a loop. And so 2019 is probably more representative. You'd almost want to skip 2020. You can't really do that. So the safest assumption in my mind is to say sales growth is 0.
Okay.
And that you'll grow sales because you're a sales and marketing P&L leader, right? We know that. The bank's going to back you because you know how to do that. But in terms of modeling for a bank, and then let me just kind of add this into the mix. The bank gets at most their 5 or 6% interest, right? Anything above that, you get. So like, oh, this thing's going to skyrocket. That benefits you, Adam, not them.
Right.
What they're concerned about is what is the likelihood that they lose their money. And so they're going to be conservative. So I think instead of even arguing from the sales line, right, which would be the first conversation when you get into the room to discuss it, say, hey, for conservatism, I said no sales growth, right? I'm going to grow this, but let's just say there's no sales growth, right?
Yeah.
And what I'll do to even make it better is I'm going to zoom out on here. And I'm going to take a picture of this and put it in our Excel model. For your purposes, you may not want to have it in there for them. Gross profit trends. I'm looking at this. Those two charts look the same. But these are dollars, not percent. And then seller's discretionary seems to chart that as well. So here's what I'm going to do. Take a screenshot. The other thing I'll say, Adam, is nobody's ever created a financial model, let alone a projection model, that anybody agreed with 100%, even a Harvard guy like me. So you should expect debate here, not, oh my gosh, this is the best thing I've ever seen. This is perfect. We'll just take this right to our credit committee.
This is exactly what we wanted.
Exactly. I've been doing this a long time, and I never got Elliot. This prediction of the future is perfect.
No. Let's move on to the next slide. And everybody has to have a comment on their opinion here, whether it's accurate.
Yes, that's what I've learned through my experience to be, at best, expecting a light analysis of what choices you made, and not a long one. Come on, guys. Here we go.
But yeah, I think that your idea there of just projecting flat growth or using historicals without trying to get too cute makes sense to me. So at least in this case,
I think so.
Because to me, the business is fundable based on that, right? So why?
Exactly.
Why
So let me hop into where we're going to do most of the modeling. So the other thing I'm going to say here, I am going to keep it simple in all regards. And instead of making year one projections like significantly different than year two, I'm going to say we're going to make similar assumptions throughout and maybe line up some one-time events that you know you're going to do with the business on a go-forward basis, and kind of keep that as the basis. Here's the other thing. You don't want to spend a lot of time discussing the future with the lender, right? A great model is one where you spend 10 minutes going through it. Nobody thinks anything is completely out of whack, and you move on to the next piece. Yeah. So we're going to assume this is flat. And then gross profit, they don't have any cost of goods sold. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, the line 119 there is, COGS for them is essentially, cost of freelancers.
Yep. And so this really should be COGS, you're right. But we won't move it for sort of consistency and simplicity. Well, let me look at how they want it pulled out. Never mind. I do think we should pull contractors out for cost of goods in our model.
That's essentially, they don't have employees, but technically they don't have employees, but that's the cost right there. I don't know, man. Just a e-commerce business that spends $29,000 a year on marketing just blows me away. I'm like, you didn't even try like Google Paid or Facebook or so.
I'll tell you what. I looked at one. I'm helping another client on a similar business. I won't go too far into it, but it's a content site, right? Yeah. It's in one particular vertical, not across verticals, but very similar business. Same thing. And the funny part is, if I'm an owner and I can get to $500,000 in money for me without paying for ads, and I don't understand ads,
right?
You can probably see it from that perspective, right?
Oh yeah, no, I totally understand it. And I mean, you kind of, it's a founder-led business, right? And she's like, I built this business on my back and my words, and so no, I get it, but it's great to see that they spend more on charitable contributions than giving money to Google. So I'm kudos to that.
The moral fabric of this is strong. So I'm just going to remove this to COGS. I'm just going to kind of highlight it in that way. What that does is that on total income of 852, we now have gross profit of 852 minus this 402, 450, right? But then let me just go down here. Total expenses, they pulled this from a sum of all that. Hold on. It's 329, 350. What happened here? Oh, they're pulling this from the historicals. So to keep this consistent, Adam, I'm going to zero this out. Or no, I'm actually going to pull it off of this sheet. Because now we zeroed out that we pulled the contractors into cost of goods.
Yep.
And then I'm going to copy this formula across. Now this updated, so now we're at 329. So then, okay, so we got back to the same 121 after our adjustment. Do you see that? All right, so let's go line by line here and just call out anything that you're going to change markedly. And then this, you're going to take this as a percentage of sales. So 47.2%. Said differently, your gross profit is going to be the remainder. Advertising and marketing, you will likely increase this.
Yes.
Subject to a positive ROI.
Correct.
That's important because you're not going to be able to predict the positive ROI, right? But in the model, what you'll say is you should expect this to go up less than revenue. So we'll probably keep it flat, right?
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. And I mean, honestly, the things that we'll do in the first 6 months won't be paid. It'll be conversion optimization and the existing funnels they have and things like that. So
cool.
It won't be.
So you've worked not only in have you worked in a digital environment before? Okay.
Yeah.
The words you were using made me think I wasn't speaking to a novice, so that's great.
Both Salesforce and CPC. So.
Oh, you're way better than me. I'm just getting started.
I don't know about that. Seems like every day it changes. So.
That's fair as well. I actually spent a little bit of time working at Workday Software.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was. I built business cases to support their Salesforce, justifying the higher price point. Yeah. So like value selling.
Yep.
We'll probably say this is flat, even though I bet you'll incur fewer fees than they will. Right. Charitable contributions, you will likely, I'm assuming, decrease this.
Yes. It should be flat. Nice. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, $2,000. You know, somebody bought a computer that month. Right. Yeah, maybe 2 or 3. Who knows? Dues and subscriptions. Not sure what this is, but I would imagine flat there.
Insurance. I would say we need to inspect insurance because, like, errors and omissions and things like that. I guess I need to, educate myself on the content business, and it just seems wild to me that they don't have any business protection or insurance protecting the business. Or they're only spending $300 a year protecting the business. So, maybe that's how this business works. But
well, it's different building it than buying it. You know, you're going to have $1 million of risk in this business, right?
Right.
They never did. So you're going to want to protect your $1 million as of day one investment, whereas they never had to take that risk.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
So. Well, we like that. Flat is 0. We'll take it. Not sure what that is, but I doubt it's significant enough to want to work on decreasing it. You will likely not have this much. Well, here's the thing. You're going to be reporting to the bank, right? So they didn't do that. They had to pay a broker, but you'll likely have similar expenses because you'll be reporting to the bank, I would imagine.
Yeah, and I don't know. To me, too, I kind of want to – I see that increasing, I guess. Okay. Slight increase probably, or an increase just to – I don't know. We're going to need to make sure the business is structured properly and just like.
What are you thinking here? 15,000?
Yeah, because I guess the thing that I've started to do is what are their warranties and guarantees, their terms and policies, things like that. They're all sort of very. It looks like somebody wrote that wasn't a lawyer, and that's great. But I think lawyers exist for a reason to make sure that the again, the business is protected, and so it's. I mean, they're not doing anything that's super complicated. So I get it, but at the same time, I guess if you're just working with mom and pop websites, it's one thing. But if you're working with other businesses that have expectations that our business needs to satisfy, then yeah, I think 15 is probably reasonable. But I want to make sure that's called out as something that I'll want to make sure we have covered. So
sure. I bet you this is handled in the add back.
Yep.
So before we this. I like color, so I know to come back to stuff, Adam. That's not like standard practice per se, but just something I do.
No, it makes sense. So this one here, I think, is less office supplies and more software. Okay. I believe what they have here is the technology improvements to the platform. Spend on developers, basically. And to me, honestly, that's going to probably, yep, exactly.
And what may happen here is flat year one, increase year two.
Yeah, based on ROI. And
that's a good one, yeah. Well, ROI and bank covenants.
That's right.
Let's not forget about those. And then I say let's not touch this because likely handled in add backs below.
Yeah.
PayPal fees, I'm assuming that would be flat or increase based on increased sales, which you'd love.
Yeah, based on revenue.
Rent and lease, okay. We'll keep it flat at 0. Repairs and maintenance, no idea what this is.
I don't know what that would be, actually.
This may be handled in add backs too. Let's just see. Regardless, we're not sure what this is. Retirement fund. Again, is everything here a contractor? Adam,
yes.
Do you know?
Yes.
So this is just another officer salary.
Yep.
Got it.
And they have no employees. Everybody's 1099.
Some of this will be flat. Flat. Did you do anything here? I'm assuming over time, but maybe not right away.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, that's that line item will probably flat or may increase. To me, that's a recruiting retention line item. If you got 100 contractors and way to retain them is to help them gain skills. I want to invest in that. So. That's mainly what the founder, I think, has been doing. It's like, I'm a content god, so follow me. So I'm not a content god, so I'm gonna have to pay somebody to do that.
Good point. No, that's smart to call that out. And again, we're putting way more notes here than you're probably going to explain to the lender. The lender assumption page will probably have some abstraction of this, but if you get drilled into it, at least we'll have the notes, right?
Yeah. No, this is great.
Content person who can demonstrate and events that his intelligence contractors will need to pay for this type of benefit. Travel is not a huge thing. I would assume flat there. Utilities.
I think that's paying for their electric bill at their house, probably.
Okay. Let's see if that's handled in add-backs below.
I wonder.
Okay, so this is another development cost on top of the software above, right?
Yep. So that's
Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, so that gave us sort of an assumptions look through the true P&L. Now let's come to the add backs and just see what's going on here. And then I'm cognizant of having sort of, what I'm going to do is 8 minutes of sort of modeling, which I may not completely finish here, Adam, but we'll sort of take offline. And then I want to save sort of 5 minutes for Q&A. And I do need to kind of wrap at 9.
okay. Perfect.
So more than likely, they went through more granular transactional information than we have to do add backs, right?
Mm-hmm.
With interest, they added back all of the sales and marketing. I don't agree here. Right? You want to increase this. It's not an add back.
Yep.
This is fair. And like most things, I'm hopping through the big numbers. I think we thought that was sort of seller's benefit. You kind of need to know what this is.
Where's that coming from?
This is the office supplies and software line.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to add it back without knowing what it is. I'm not going to do much with the salary and wages. This is kind of the same thing.
Why would they do that?
When you say that, do what?
Why would they have the software and web development costs as add backs? Why wouldn't that have been kept in expenses?
If they consider them one-time things that you won't have to do next year, then you could see them being add backs, right? If I did my once every 5-year technology platform reinvestment, right?
Mm.
And I wouldn't need to do it for another 5 years now, then you could see it being an expense of 2021 or 2020, but not for you in the 2-year go forward, right?
Okay.
But then you have to, you need more justification from whoever to understand what that really is. That's why I kept asking, you need to know what this is.
Okay.
So this is going to be a simpler exercise because we're assuming that revenue is flat, cost of goods sold is a function of sales because they're contractors, so per unit revenue, I think that's a safe assumption. If it was a person cutting grass, right, and you could increase sales without needing a new, lawnmower or lawn tech, then it may be different. But for this, I think it really is part of the unit economics and dollar for dollar increase. So we're going to have a couple things where we're going to slightly increase. So let me look at where we said slightly increase. This was an increase. Okay. So what the bank is asking for is just this spread out over the next 12 months, total percentage, and then month 13 through 24.
Okay.
So I'm going to do that in the same tab because it's just easier. And we talked about earlier, you can just pull it over. So, and then this is March. So then this would be April. So April to March will be the next 12, and then we got to go to the next March to get to 24 months. Boom. This is month 1, 2. All right. It's 24 months here, right? So sales, we're saying it's flat. So we're just going to pull whatever it was from the year before, or.
Mm-hmm. And then that will get the seasonality, at least from historicals.
There you go. That's exactly why you do it.
You don't have to guess or try to figure out why May is different than
Exactly.
December.
And even when I do sort of more elaborate models, I do that the same way. For that exact same reason. It also helps you model out working capital in an accurate way. So total income just equals this because there was no other income. Oh, and then what do I do here to make it? So copy this, and then make it look pretty. All right. Cost of goods sold, so equals this times sales. And then gross profit is just sales minus cost of goods, and then carry that over. And then here's where things are a little different. So what we would do here is say, if you're going to increase their advertising budget, it's at just under 30. Are you thinking 45,000?
Yeah, let's say that in the first year. I mean, I guess, again, from this perspective, are they? To me, that's the way to drive growth and value to the business is that line item.
Yep.
Or is the easiest way for me to demonstrate that through data. So they, I guess, again, in this situation, is it better to just be conservative and put a number there that's why are you spending $200,000 or $500,000 on advertising in the next 24 months? Or is it better just to say, hey, it's going to be $45,000 and we're going to see incremental gains from that? So I guess my question is it? I'm going to spend more than 45 on that, but I haven't worked out the models and I don't know what those numbers are today. So if it's easier to say, hey, it's 45, and we'll see that increase over the next 24 months, and it's going to have this return. Is that the best solution, I guess, for that type of thing for this pro forma?
So I think the way I would do it is I would say 30,000. Is not materially different than this 28,981, but it says I'm going to increase this, but I haven't proven to you how and why. So this won't affect the net income substantially, nor our ratios. But I want you to know that I'm going to increase this.
Okay. So it's saying it's going to increase, but since we're saying that growth is flat or revenue is flat, and again, you have that in the notes, right? If the ROI is there, we're going to see increments in sales, and so then we can increase spend there. So
exactly.
Okay.
So I think when we first saw this, we were thinking that we would increase it. But however, I think this goes along this 75 along with this 62. Well, and that's where I think your model looks different than theirs. Let me come back to. So if I'm speaking to you and if I'm speaking to the bank's not going to take all the ad backs either.
Okay.
So I think what the right communication strategy, I think, with the bank at this point, as you prove things out, is to probably say, yes, they are ad backs. Assume they're one-time things.
Okay.
Until they're proven out to be something different in diligence, and then you'd have to adjust for them. Because you don't have enough data right now to prove yes or no, and I'm thinking the lender probably wants something sooner rather than later.
Correct.
Yeah. So,
and I think what they want right now is, my sense on this is like, it needs to be solid and defensible, but it doesn't need to be cute or creative, or they're not looking for something, I think they want a spreadsheet that doesn't have a lot of red flags in it. I think is what everybody wants, right? So
I would agree with that wholeheartedly. So then I'm going to, for the time, leave that alone.
Okay.
I'm not going to do along with this. Because it's handled below in ad backs. He said that we would likely increase training and education. Again, because you're doing that to increase retention, and so therefore either more revenue or lower cost of like having to hire new people. It's 9,000 now. It might be 10,000 to communicate that I'm going to increase it, but only if it improves retention, which either increases revenue or decreases costs.
Yep.
And then if it's me, I don't agree with this ad back, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what these two are, but again, if I'm communicating to the bank at this point, Adam, I may assume that Quiet Light or the brokerage is smarter than me.
Right.
Right.
They know where to put the numbers and how to put the numbers, and hey, seller, this is how you get a bigger, so.
Because what the bank's going to also want to see is this number or this number.
Yep.
Well, really, the SDE.
Yeah. Right, which is in this type of deal, that's EBITDA.
Right.
Or that's their version of EBITDA.
Yep. And so what I would do is not change any of this outside of move this from 28,981 to 30.
Okay.
This from 200 or 300 to 3,000.
Yep.
This from 6,000 to 15,000. And this from 9,000 to 10,000. And I would keep everything else the same.
Okay.
Now, if there was something else here that drove as a function of sales, like dollar for dollar, let's say for each new um, for each new customer, you needed some onboarding expense or new additional cost in your software platform, right? If those things were true, then I would ratchet up some of the expenses to consider that. But because I think most of that's captured in their contractor expense, this projection becomes very easy, I think, in its current form. And since we're working together, our work, right, is to go in here and look at, help me understand how all of your marketing budget is added back, right? Which is still, even if it ends up not holding up as an add back, Adam, that's less than 10% of EBITDA or SDE. So you're not killing your model off of that. The thing that you're going to be more concerned with is this, call it 136K. How one time is this versus ongoing? For now, assume it's an add back and not ongoing. That's what you were told. And then we'll prove this up in due diligence.
Yeah, I've got a call with them on Thursday to kind of start a dive into the platform and technology.
Okay.
And so that's what I want to see there is, they've said they spent, the 150 in the last, 12 months on the platform and relaunched the website. It's got the strong back end. See how truly strong that is, or I guess, see it from my own eyes, I guess. And then, I'm getting the list of what are the future features that have been requested or needed and kind of the bug list of the platform. So, how buggy is the platform and, how much are they keeping it together with duct tape and, or how much is, actually running efficiently. So yeah, that's Tuesday's call with the sellers. So we'll see, or Thursday's call with the sellers. So we'll see what that looks like, but start that process.
Excellent. So if you notice what I did is I just took all of these numbers that are here in column S that are our new projections and divided them by 12.
That was my question, is do you just spread it across evenly over the year, or do you represent it differently? But
no, you a decent argument could be made for doing a percentage of revenue and saying, at 68, 681 is a portion of this 12-month revenue, that the portion of advertising and marketing that falls into April is commensurate with the proportion of revenue in that period. That's where we said you want low red flags, low complexity.
Yep.
That'd be a more complex manifestation, and for most things, not accurate, right? Because even if marketing and advertising did drive sales, which I think is true, the likelihood that all of it will be inside the period is unlikely.
Correct. It's trailing, and it's gonna, the spend last month is gonna drive sales next month.
Yep. And then, how likely are you to ratchet up or down the expense if you have one or two bad months? You probably rework the allocation and keep going, I would imagine. So then now I'm just pulling over the lines that we adjusted, and then everything else we're going to assume is the same as it was the year before.
The except for charitable, right? You'll take that out. Oh, that came out in add backs, right? So yeah. Okay.
No, good catch. I thought it did, but I'm glad that you brought it up. That's the right question to ask. All right, so then I'm just going to carry these over, right? And then I'll sum and subtotal all of that. So just for time, Adam, what I'm going to do is, I think you've seen how I set this up, right? And if I had to go through steps, I'd say start from the cleanest manifestation of sort of the adjusted EBITDA that you have, right? Go through each line item and say whether you would increase it, decrease it, what is it likely to be in the future, and take those notes and whatever sort of detail you need. Where those notes are numerical, put them in numerical. And then think of the easiest way to start. Like your iteration one model should be the smallest deviation from the past as possible.
Okay.
And that's what we did here. And then everything should be linked. If you notice, the only 5 or 6 numbers that came are very clearly in line with what their comparison number is. So that somebody auditing this could do it very easily. And now if somebody would say, hey, Elliot, but the bank wanted it in their thing, all you got to do is just take those numbers and put them over in here. And in all honesty, you should probably call your banker and just say, hey, I started in the broker's model and built a 2-year projection from there. Let's spend 10 minutes walking through this before I put it into yours and just see how far you get.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. Because, you look through their model and, it's the items they have are items that we're going to be carrying over anyway. So it's going to be a lot of, we don't have uniforms and
exactly.
other items there. So,
and unless they're pulling some like dashboard off of this to their credit committee, which they may, and in that case, it may make sense to pull this stuff over. Okay. I still think for simplicity, I always think about as soon as I finish doing a deliverable, and you probably do this too, what is the receiver of this going to use it for, and how acclimated are they going to be to the nuance of what I just gave them? And how do I connect it as close to the last thing they saw or something that's defensible, to your point? And even if I need to abstract it one more level to get into their format, at least they're not like, well, how'd you get it? Very simple. So I want to open it up for a couple of questions if you have any, and then let's try to wrap 9:15 if that's okay.
Yeah, perfect. So this is great. I love the steps as far as start with assumptions, pull the data from the cleanest spot, and that really kind of helps set up the stage to fill in those blanks later there. I guess I do have a question on how do the add backs tie to the forecast they're looking for? Because obviously add backs is a function of selling the business. It's not a financial tool that we're going to be using going forward. So how do you make that transition from the broker's model that have add backs to a forecast that's, I'm assuming, wouldn't have add backs?
Great question. So the first thing, we need to define add backs in language that's commensurate with the activity. Add backs are only real if they won't be ongoing expenses. So advertising and marketing, if Adam won't be spending the money, is therefore an add back and should be added back, because in Adam's model, he won't spend it, and so therefore it will drop to EBITDA. Said differently, if Adam does not think that he won't spend this money to create the revenue that he's expecting to justify his return on investment, then therefore it's not an add back, and it would be part of the expense line item. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
So what you're really doing, and the way I said it when we talked through it, is you're validating whether these are truly add backs. Mm-hmm. If so, then the first time you show it, it'll be income, cost of goods sold, expenses, add backs, SDE. The next time you show it, it'll just be income, cost of goods sold, trued up expenses, net operating income, right? Which is, so to get from net operating income to SDE, assuming an environment where you haven't taken out taxes, depreciation, amortization, the only difference is the money that you would take out of the business. Mm-hmm. which for the bank is an expense of the business. So the bank's going to be looking at net operating income. So let me say it again to answer your question directly. The add backs only matter if they actually are truly expenses that won't carry over in the next 12 months.
Okay.
And then you'd only show them once. And then the next iteration of this model, you would just show the adjusted P&L with the right numbers and the right lines.
Got it. Okay.
The only reason they're add backs is because the broker can't, well, for the same reason I told you, they want you to say, okay, I understand his revenue and his net operating income. I can see those on his taxes, financials, bank statements. Now, what they're saying is these things were expenses the seller put through that you won't add them. So I'm going to put those in add backs because then I can communicate them effectively, right? But then all the numbers are similar to what Adam would look at in other places, so I don't confuse the buyer.
Got it.
I'm saying the same thing to the lender. The lender's going to look at net operating income, the add backs they believe. They're not going to be looking at SDE, but because you want to walk them from where you started to what your projections are, you want to kind of start from that model because you can walk them through sequentially.
Okay.
If the add back ends up being something that you're going to spend, it's not an add back.
Okay. And then, so it's almost like I guess in this case, we would have that as backup, but what the bank would see would be that clean version of income and expenses without that. So,
yes.
So this is kind of our worksheet of like, here's the expense of the business. So,
yeah.
Cool.
And then
so,
again, just to say it, their covenants are going to be written off of net operating income, net income.
Okay.
So then that's the other reason why we made the assumption to assume all the add backs were true for now until proven untrue, so that the bank doesn't kick out your deal at the beginning because you made the assumption that the add backs weren't accurate and now your net income's too low to justify the loan before you even trued up and validated any of this.
Okay. All right. Well, we could talk about this all morning, but this has been super helpful, Elliot. Thanks for kind of running through an accelerated forecast there. That makes much more sense, and it kind of takes a lot of the mystery out of it. So,
yep. So just as a wrap, start with the most defensible income statement you can find. Spend whatever time it takes to go through each and every line item and what your assumptions are about it going forward. Model your projection as the smallest change from the most defensible income statement, subject to your new assumptions as you can get, because you're going to be defending it. Fourth, don't overdo it. Keep it simple, stupid. Fifth, and never forget this, you are predicting the future. So you should neither think you're all that good at it, nor should you feel that bad if people disagree with you. Nor should you expect that you're going to send it to somebody and they're going to say, this is perfect. I've never seen a better projection. You just want it to be directional. And like you said, Adam, minimize your red flags. So with that, I'm going to shut it down. Thank you. I'll clean things up, Adam, and send a version to you later on today or tomorrow. If I can get to it this afternoon, I will, but tomorrow at the latest.
That sounds good.
All right. Thank you.